I'm sitting here by my TV. I've been watching it very much lately because I'm on a holiday, and I've been seeing all those programs about all sorts of things. But now I'm curious. I've switched the TV off, and now I want to see how it operates, how it can put me into all those weird situations. So it's about time.
Hello and welcome to the EuroWhat, episode 297, dropping on March 31st, 2026. We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike McComb. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Ben.
In this episode, we'll be talking about Iceland's Icy Reception at Eurovision. That works on multiple levels. I'm very excited about it. Do not let me near the pun machine.
Okay. Oh, it must feel like Christmas Day, you finally getting to go off on Iceland.
Yes, it is 2026 as we are recording this, and after 8-ish years of doing this show, I finally get to do an episode about Iceland in the contest. And, I was actually kind of inspired by what you ended up doing with Ireland, of just okay, there is, this is like their 38th, 39th participation, or would have been, and I didn't just want to do a survey of those because... mostly, I think they still have the chance to get their stuff together, and if they do, we are going to need the content then. They have 1.5 venues large enough to host things.
Okay. I'm interested about the half venue.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I mean, is Iceland going to put a roof on the soccer stadium? That's the half. Most likely, it's going to be at Egilshall in Grafavogur. That's part of the Reykjavik suburbs. Just start looking at the Icelandic bus system now. Multiple routes will make a stop.
Icelandic suburbs. What a concept.
Oh, there was a version of this episode that was just me looking at, does Iceland have a venue to host this? What is the plan? More importantly, it's a big year for Iceland in Eurovision. If they were participating, 2026 would have been the 40th anniversary of their debut in the contest. That's a number that ends in a 0. Pew, pew, pew. In recent entries, they've shown one thing about them at Eurovision, at least in the last 10-ish years or so, there's been a willingness to bring not exactly political, but a more political message of tolerance to the contest, whether bouncy, child-friendly form like Pall in 2014. Or the spikier but still somehow child-friendly form like Hatari in 2019.
Child-friendly, that still kind of boggles the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they win a couple of Kids' Choice Awards or whatever the equivalent is in Iceland?
Yes, I still have the animated GIFs on my phone, just ready to deploy at any time in texting. Truly, I'm a menace, but also just Palapunk and Hatari, just truly the Kiki and Booba of Icelandic entries. In terms of numbers that ends in 0, it's not just the 40th of Iceland's debut in the contest, it's also the 60th anniversary of RÚV's television operation, Sjónvarpið, going on air. That's 2 numbers that end in a 0. Pew, 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 pew. With that in mind, I kind of want to focus on 2 moments in Icelandic Eurovision history and a little bit of connective tissue between them. Their debut in the contest 40 years ago, and what Iceland did about a decade later to shock the contest out of the doldrums and push it closer to what it's become today. But before we get to that, though, part of the question was of their debut is, why did it take until 1986? Given the generally high ratings ESC gets in the country, why did it take them so long to actually join the party? That felt like important background info, and it turned out to be equal parts the sort of television history catnip that we love and the sort of moral panic that every nation seems to go through about every new form of media.
Another type of catnip that I respond to.
Yes, exactly. So we're gonna kind of, that's the background, and then we get to these 2 Eurovision moments. So let's talk about Icelandic television for a moment. By briefly speedrunning Iceland's history as an independent nation up to World War II. So, Iceland was part of Denmark until December 1918. when it's recognized as like its own sovereign state, but still under the Danish crown. So it's part of Denmark, but it's Iceland.
Like with the Faroe Islands and Greenland?
Yeah, exactly. That sort of deal. It's like you're part of us, but you're also your own separate thing. In June 1944, Iceland enacted a two-part constitutional referendum, liberating themselves from Denmark and becoming an independent republic. Just like in the middle of World War II, just no big deal. No one's busy. They had been a largely agrarian nation, and they now have no money. But luckily, American soldiers have set up an Air Force base in Keflavik as part of the war. This is great because it brings lots of jobs for Icelanders, particularly if they speak English. But everybody is worried about that because we've also brought our Coca-Cola and our rock music. And Iceland is just sort of generally concerned about losing its culture and becoming too Americanized, to the point that eventually Americans are basically allowed to leave the base once a week. It's just like they need to stay at Keflavik, otherwise they will take all of the Icelandic women.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. It's just like, that was a problem. I went on a walking tour in Reykjavik, and that was just like part of the spiel. After World War II, America is supposed to leave and hand over Keflavik Airport to Iceland. They don't. Iceland is nicely located for strategic purposes. We need to protect Europe, etc., etc. We eventually give them Keflavik, but maintain a NATO base as part of the Icelandic Defense Force. Again, Iceland is a newly independent nation that wants to define its own culture post-war as it becomes less reliant on fishing as its primary industry and generally joins Europe and the world. It does not have the resources, money, or most importantly, the interest to develop a national television system. The various high-minded Icelanders are resisting the introduction of the medium, which is over in America and starting to take over the world, into their country because they're worried about it changing their culture too much. It's like, again, we have just broken free of Denmark. We have independent culture. We want to maintain it. No TV. Meanwhile, in the United States Air Force, in December 1953, the Air Force Strategic Air Command, and again, I'm assuming that you did not think when I was working on an Iceland episode we were going to be talking about the American military this much.
I don't know. I mean, you know how my episodes end up going.
Yeah, but so. Yeah, exactly. We've covered enough juntas. It's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Air Force Strategic Air Command develops a military-operated television transmitter operated out of Northeast Maine. Maine is similarly remote. I was there recently. Like the cell signal was bad. Because that Air Force base is in a fairly remote area, the Air Force wants to provide television service for the servicemen and the families on the base. It's entertainment, it's news, it's generally keeping in touch with home. The armed forces already had radio service for this purpose that was used pretty globally. And it is like, that's a great model, and just sort of expands that into the armed forces radio and television service. Television was a logical next step. Again, everybody's on the base, everybody needs entertainment, needs stuff to do. Keflavik has a radio station. That seems like a great opportunity to expand that. The Air Force Base writes a letter to the Foreign Minister of Iceland in 1954, explaining that the Defense Force is planning to introduce TV and that will help keep servicemen on the base. This is warmly received in Iceland. Just like, great. So the first telecast is on March 17th, 1955. The problem with this is that Reykjavik is only about 35 miles away from Keflavik. And the signal is a fairly low transmitter. It's like 50 watts. That's nothing. But that can transmit to a distance of 50 miles from the base.
So Reykjavik is quickly losing its control group status.
Yes. Well, especially because more than half of Iceland's population lives on the Reykjanes Peninsula, where Reykjavik is. Mm-hmm. They're going to get TV. There is some discussion about setting up a directional antenna so that it points towards the ocean instead of towards Reykjavik. But also there are folks at RÚV who are in favor of partnering. It's like, why not let armed forces have 2 to 3 hours of broadcast time? And we could get like an hour. We could do something with that. They could let us use the equipment. But also, again, this is primarily for American military and civilian personnel, but also starts to get picked up by any Icelanders that have TVs or radios, because Icelanders are very resourceful and they can start picking up like the FM waves that have the TV on it to get like the sound. But then by 1958, they also start purchasing and modifying American TV sets so they can see the programs. As many as 8,000 TVs had been sold in Iceland prior to 1964, despite there being no native broadcasting service. And also, I will just call out a lot of this information. Like, there is like one source on TV in Iceland, it is somebody's thesis for the University of Delaware from 1984.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is amazing.
it is both really, really useful information, but it ends like right before the stuff I want to know. But no, like now they have Eurovision. Go on.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is like the history of development and broadcasting in Iceland. James Richard Williamson, a thesis submitted in fulfillment of a Master of Arts in Communication in June 1984. It is a really, really useful history of this, including sort of like what happened. Because again, Iceland is getting TV. It's not from Iceland. It's from America.
Yeah, like it really sounds like when an invasive species is introduced into an ecosystem that cannot handle it.
Oh yeah, no. This is kudzu. Anyways, Icelanders are watching TV from the Air Force Base. Icelandic scholars and high-minded people are having the same moral panics about media that everybody has had. They have literally already had the radio will make people stop reading in the 1920s when RÚV first started broadcasting radio. And now we have moved on to television will destroy our love of books and be a bad influence. You know, just all of the same old songs.
Mm-hmm.
In 1961, Americans asked to boost the signal to the latest equipment, so we are upgrading from 50 watts to 250 watts.
Oh, geez.
Iceland's foreign minister allows them to do this, and then once he has confirmed this to Parliament, he basically gets yelled at for having allowed the U.S. to monopolize television broadcasting in the country and creating a threat to national heritage and culture. This causes 60 various intellectuals, so your educators, your artists, your writers, your doctors, your union leaders, your scientists, to write to Parliament and ask that the Air Force broadcasts be limited. I'm going to have you read the letter here.
Okay. We, the undersigned Alting voters, believe that in many ways it is dangerous as well as dishonorable for the Icelanders as a civilized, independent nation to permit a foreign state to operate a television station in this country, reaching more than half the population. We believe that the establishment and operation of Icelandic television is such an expensive and difficult task for such a small nation that it is necessary to allow it to develop according to the desire and ability of the people, but that it not be forced forward in an unnatural manner. For the above-mentioned reasons, we hereby appeal to the Alting to see to it that the permission to operate a foreign television station at the Keflavik airport be immediately conditioned on the limitation of transmission to the base alone.
So again, we are concerned that the Icelandic children are going to become Americanized. Just like very high-minded, we should do this, but we should do it on our own terms.
Mm-hmm.
There is then a response from essentially like 15,000 people come together to be like, no, we like TV.
Yeah.
We would like our MTV, thank you. Here's their letter to Parliament requesting the freedom to receive TV singles. Again, we would like our MTV.
We, the undersigned, appeal to the Alting that it see to it that all those who want to and are able to receive television transmissions, wherever they come from, shall have an unlimited right and full freedom to do so. We protest strongly any limitations which may be attempted in this field, for example, by blocking the transmissions of the Keflavik television station. This kind of reminds me of the sort of letters that you would write when you were like 8 or 9 years old, like trying to convince your parents of the educational benefits of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yes. Well, like it's very much that level of, I mean, I think Emma Stone also has a story of how she basically made a PowerPoint presentation for her parents of why she should get to go to Hollywood and try to become a star.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah.
Like it is that level. It is this level of writing of just like sort of high-minded, sort of what you imagine business writing is, or just like what writing a letter to Parliament should be.
Right. Yes.
It's like
very costumey.
Yes. Hello, distinguished members of the Alting.
Yes.
We would like television, please. We have been very good.
Yes. I promise to do my homework as soon as I get home from school.
We have done our chores.
Yes.
All right. Anyways, so around, again, this is all happening in the mid-60s. At the same time, like 1963, 1964, RÚV is running the numbers on what would it look like for us to set up television operations. How much is this going to cost? The answer is a lot, for many reasons. No buildings are appropriate television studios, and modifying a building could be just as expensive as building something new. They need to import all of the equipment. everyone who works for the TV station will need to be paid wages. And then setting up the power stations involves, in some cases, making roads, and that's also an expensive process in Iceland. All in all, the TV committee estimates that 224 million kroner would need to be spent between 1964 and 1972 in order to both start up the TV network and keep it running.
Wow.
224 million kroner was approximately $14 million.
Yeah, that's a pretty big price tag, especially in like 1960s dollars.
Yeah, and like they're also very smart about just sort of like, okay, how are we going to generate this money? And like it's okay, TV licenses, especially from all of the sets that are already in the nation illicitly, advertising in dedicated advertising blocks, and then levies on television sales will help raise those funds. And then once it starts up, TV will come on at 8 p.m. and run for 2 to 3 hours per evening. This will the rationale behind this is very adorable to me. Of like, this will prevent it from interfering with radio news time, which is from 6:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it's just sort of assumed that, okay, well, Icelandic dinner hour is when everybody gets home at 6 p.m., so we can't have TV on then.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting home precisely at 6 p.m. and eating their dinner, and then it's time for radio news, and then television.
So there would be no TV broadcasting at all in those off hours.
Correct.
No I Love Lucy reruns, nothing like that.
I mean, even now, as somebody who has just had Ruv on their Apple TV for several years, just like during the off hours, they essentially have like a news screen that will show like, here's the weather, and like here's some information that's relevant to you. That's not quite that's like a step up from like teletext.
But it's just playing on a loop.
It's just playing on a loop, and like Ruv 2 is the music in the background. It'll like during the volcano, it would have just like the volcano. Here's like the shot of the volcano footage, but because it's like 2 a.m., you can't really see anything good when I'm watching, anyways.
Yeah,
but just sort of
and really, you don't want to be seeing anything like quote unquote good.
Yeah, true.
In that scenario.
True. But yeah, so like they get this together and they start transmitting on September 30th, 1966. And as they've said, like about half the population, 100,000 people, can watch TV. At the start, it is initially on 2 days a week. By 1967, it has expanded to 6 days a week. Ruv takes Thursdays off in those days, and then also the entire month of July. Like, it's nice. Go outside. They are able to broadcast color in 1975. The first news program that's broadcast in color happens in September 1977. Eurovision still can't be broadcast as a live event because they are too far away from the transmission area in Europe. I have looked through... I have done like the weird little CAPTCHA on the Icelandic Media Archive that every single link on the Iceland and Eurovision page for like the broadcaster stuff links to. And I have done its weird little CAPTCHA so many times just so I could look at TV listings in like Morgunblaðir or any of the other newspapers, just be like, okay, correct. The 1971 contest happens on April 3rd, 1971, does not air in Iceland until April 18th. So like a couple weeks later, it's like when they receive the tape. So what needs to happen is the development of satellite television. In February 1982, negotiations between the U.S. and Iceland begin for the construction of a satellite Earth station near Skugnir. This expands satellite capabilities that were starting to get built out in 1980, but it gets tense between the folks who are still like on the U.S. military base and Iceland because the Navy Broadcast Service pays $19.50 a minute to the Icelandic telephone admin to use the satellite networks to broadcast 2 football playoffs. Iceland doesn't get satellite TV, but the Americans do. There's an editorial cartoon in Morgunblaðið with American troops watching satellite TV, the Icelandic people being denied. Satellite TV is tricky. You need a lot of Earth stations. The first use of Intelsat Earth Station happens in 1981. By 1984, they're starting to get... it still doesn't have cooperation, just like there's a lot of high costs. And of course, Iceland does not have any money. 1983 is the first year that Ruv is able to actually broadcast Eurovision live. That is where the TV listing starts to show, no, this is happening on the day that Eurovision is happening. We are showing the broadcast from Munich. By 3 years later, the money is in place, and we can debut in the contest in 1986. They are the first debut in the song contest since Cyprus in 1981. It's an exciting moment for everybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was surprised that, like, because, like, we have like the big wave of the 90s that we have spent so much time talking about this year. But then prior to that, it is 1986 Iceland, and then 1981 Cyprus. I'm pretty sure Cyprus shows up and then immediately takes some time off. The previous one before Cyprus is Morocco, and that is one and done.
Right.
But Eurovision is a go, and now we need to find a song. They have Songvakeppni Sjónvarpsins, so just Icelandic song contest. They received 287 entries for the initial song selection and whittled this down to 10 finalists. 2 of those songs are disqualified for breaking the Eurovision rule about not being publicly performed or commercially released before the Eurovision final. They are still performed in the selection, even though they cannot win the selection.
Okay.
Again, we put the show together. Eurovision is like 6 weeks.
Yeah, we've already printed the programs.
We've already printed the programs. Looking at the lineup, Iceland is really treating this as a song competition. The 10 songs have different writers, but there is a small troupe of 4 different performers in various combinations performing those songs. The first song of the night is Pálmi Gunnarsson performing Gleði Bankin. And I have a link that is labeled Pure Uncut 1986 Part 1.
Okay.
I enjoyed the aesthetics of this so much. So let's watch, about the first minute and a half.
Okay. Oh, goodness.
I
see the jacket.
The thumbnail alone.
Yeah. All right. Clicking in 3, 2, 1. The pastels.
No, just like an extremely 1986 color scheme. We are back at like just a room full of people in blazers just with their arms crossed.
Yeah, a child sitting in the front row just looking mortified.
I have no clue if they're just like watching on a screen in a second room.
Yeah, because it really looks like they're like at some sort of seminar at the Best Western.
Yes. Yeah, that's basically the aesthetic happening. But yeah, just sort of like the weird pastels, the whole lighting situation. Just every so often a commercial will copy that like early 80s TV aesthetic of just like the lighting and the specific cameras that make the lighting look that way. Pure uncut, just like, yes, this is 1986. Yeah. Absolutely. Just like this terrible green brocade, like floor-length jacket. So given the song-first nature of this version of the contest, which I think kind of still exists to some extent, because Dathi Ferrer has mentioned somewhere in an interview that his original intent for his first entry for Songvakeppnin is this love is like, well, somebody else is going to perform this, and like when he couldn't find somebody else to perform it, he did. People submit songs, and they will try to pair songs with appropriate singers. So Pálmi wins this, and then Iceland takes that winner and gives it a revamp for Eurovision. So the kind of Schlager rock backing gets a little bit brighter, a little bit somehow more 80s. They drop that direct Eurovision reference in the chorus. And importantly, Gunnarsson pairs up with fellow entrant Eiríkur Hauksson and then fellow singer Helga Müller to form the group Icy. Now let's go ahead and click the link that I have marked Pure Uncut 1986 Part 2, because this is the performance in Bergen.
Okay. All right. No immediate pastels. All right. Clicking in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I have some thoughts.
I mean, mine, every time I've watched this video, is just like, at some point, just like a Siberian tiger should appear on stage and they should start doing magic tricks. It's very Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, but it's like each person is like a stage invader in their own performance.
Yes.
It's, but like just, I don't know, I don't like this revamp. No, like the original one, like until it got like very schlagery in the chorus, like it had kind of like a, like Johnny Hates Jazz, like this very specific 1986 sound that I actually really enjoyed. But like this revamp, it like, well, the laser sound effects at the beginning to start. It's like, oh no, it's the new theme song for Knight Rider. But it's Yeah, there's just a lot of look going on
Yes.
with this.
Yes. No, just like when Erica Haukson shows up with like his big mullet and just like the little hand gloves, I'm just like, I lose it. But no, like there's like a very let's put on a show, very variety show feel to this.
Yeah, the third singer kind of looking like a caricature of Liza Minnelli is not helping.
And just like immediately throwing some glitter in the air.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just like let's bring it down to like a 7, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Quick sidebar on the lyrics about Gleði Bankin, which does translate to like the bank of joy or the bank of fun. I was just like, oh, is that like, you know, like the edge of something, or just sort of like as like a physical landmark? No, it's like literally about not depositing your blues in the bank.
Okay.
or just like not overdrawing your bank of fun.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is not interest bearing, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Anyways, so during the rehearsals in Bergen, because Iceland is new, folks are excited about them in the contest, and they are seen as a dark horse. They're just like, are they going to be a spoiler on the night? Are these guys the winner because they're new and they're bringing all of this? No. The juries were appropriately icy to icy.
Yeah. As is usually the case with debuting countries in this era of the contest.
Mm-hmm. Icy received 19 points total, and they finished 16th out of 20 nations. That ends up being a pretty comfortable spot for Iceland. Like, their first 3 years of the contest, they consistently placed 16th. Gleði Bankin does not win the contest, but does win the heart of its home nation. It is still beloved. Just looked up to see who's covered this. Dathi Freyr did a cover of this in 2017 as part of stuff. That's in his typical style. It's very fun. Found a video of Hera Björk performing this and the Icelandic version of Sylvia Knight's Congratulations on one of the Eurovision cruises.
Okay. Yeah. That all sounds correct.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's very fun. Anyways, so that is Iceland's debut in the contest. And again, roughly a decade later, they really shake things up. But let's do a quick little bit of like how they get there. Because like, again, 16th. They finally break that streak in 1989 by placing last and getting 0 points.
Oof.
Yeah. But like they quickly turn it around in 1990 and do seem to get the hang of things, because that's when they send Stjornin and 8 lag in. And Sigridur Beintinsdóttir, or Sigga, as she is generally called, ends up representing Iceland basically every other year from 1990 to 1994. Mm-hmm. And like I have like a fun little medley of her songs. So again, like she shows up 3 times, so part of Stjornin, part of Heart to Heart, and then just solo. But it's to diminishing if Peppy returns. She ends up in like 12th in 1994. Iceland also, just like at this time, Iceland seems to be sinking into the same adult contemporary slump that the contest is. Mm-hmm. We have watched so much of 1994 in little bits and pieces this year.
Yeah.
Iceland's Song of a Captain process, what's not helping is that it's proving expensive for Ruv to compete and put on Song of a Captain. The 1994 edition of Song of a Captain that selects the song only gives 3 choices. So we started with 10 in 1986. We're down to just like 3. And like they still swap out the person who wrote that song with Sigga to perform it in Iceland and give that a revamp. So like that's just part of their process, is like, we'll pick what song we like, but we'll also give it a zhuzh.
Right.
So after this, the next 3 years, Ruv reverts to an internal selection. They've got a pretty deep bank of people who have done Song of a Captain for them. The next couple of years is people who placed second. Let's give them a shot. They have like, again, your standard 1995 Eurovision mid-tempo ballad. 1996, they do a very jazzy thing that does not work for me. But elsewhere in Icelandic music, something is shifting. Specifically, Pall Oskar's second album, Pall, a collection of ballads and standards, was the best-selling album in Iceland in 1995. So, like, he is a versatile performer, he's a known quantity, and his follow-up album in 1996 is kind of doing the same sort of electronic techno-y soundscapes that Bjork is doing around that time, of just like when you think of like the first couple Bjork albums. Rue is still selecting internally and reaches out to Pall Oskar because they have heard that he's a fan of Eurovision. And here's what he has said about that moment that I'm going to have you read.
I got a call from the national TV in 97 because they didn't have the money to do a preliminary contest that year. But they had heard it from somewhere that I was a Eurovision fan and asked if I would be ready to be Iceland's representative in 1997. And it didn't take me long to give them an answer. I knew that Eurovision was about to die by then. It didn't look good, but the contest was going through a period of great decline. Artists who won the contest didn't make any career from it, and the winning songs didn't sell.
I mean, there's little bits of this that feel very much like the moment we're in today, of just like, okay, what's the contest doing right now? But so like he agrees to go, but on his own terms, just like, I get to go to Ireland and do exactly what I want, and you can't ask any questions. You have nothing to say about it. Complete artistic freedom. They said yes.
Yay.
And like a music video gets released in Iceland that is basically like what's about to happen on the Eurovision stage. And just sort of the general media response feels like the 1997 version of Hattari to me, of just like folks being very worried he's going to shock people on Iceland's behalf, when there was really like a specific reasoning behind the performance and his participation. And I'm going to have you read another quote from him on this. He is sort of delightfully outspoken on this, and we will kind of get back to that.
Okay. I'm usually getting very good responses since it was aired for a week ago, and that reaction has been as a pleasant surprise to me, especially because I wasn't trying to please anyone when I wrote this song, nor was that my goal by participating in this competition. And then there are those who might like me, but don't necessarily like the Eurovision contest. I respect their view because Eurovision has become such a bastard of a contest in the last years, especially after 1989, because it has sadly failed to communicate properly with our time period.
Again, fairly outspoken on the contest and other issues, and with regards to other stuff that happens in the world. Some nice bits with regards to sort of this episode and the last time and our Ireland episode. His favorite Eurovision winner is All Kinds of Everything.
Oh, really?
Yes. And his favorite Icelandic entry is Gleðibankinn. So Iceland performs last on the night in 1997.
It is interesting to see that his staging includes him being surrounded by TVs.
Yeah.
Just given what we've been
I had
talking
forgotten
about.
that part of like the 1997 stage setup.
Mm-hmm.
On a pure performance level, it's the first time there's a headset microphone.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like there's an interview with him before the contest. I think it's the same one from the clip I had you read of him talking about, I'm going to have a headset mic like a telephone operator.
Huh.
There's a big couch on stage. It's a big prop. He's doing like a full modern Eurovision level performance with dancers and camera angles. And just sort of really thinking about what this looks like from beginning to end, when everybody else is just, here are my 5 backing singers on stage right. The old Eurovision is dying. The new Eurovision is struggling to be born. Also important here, Pall Oskar is the first openly gay performer in the contest. Like, there have been, like post-contest, there have been folks that we now know about, but like, he's the first one who goes in like, no, the performance is as a whole is designed to be remembered by the viewer at home. It's slightly too ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the night, it's in 20th place with 18 points. But if you look at those points, 2 sets of points from the juries only give him 2 points. There are 5 nations testing out the televote for the first time in 1997. Sweden is one of them, and he gets 8 points from Sweden.
Ooh.
The UK is one of them, and he gets 6 points from the UK. Iceland has to sit out of 1998 because of low average scores, including this one. But when they return in 1999, it's all televote. There's no language rule. They can sing in English if they want.
Mm-hmm.
They place second with All Out of Love. They are thinking about being television friendly and reaching out to the viewer at home in a way that nobody was at the time. And like, if this had been a couple years later, I think it would have done much better because it's just a very visually dynamic performance. He generally just seems like a gem of a human being. Just like since 1997, he has been an icon of Reykjavik's LGBTQ scene. Having dug into his history, like he has played Dr. Frankenfurter twice. Once in high school.
Oh, all right.
In like a very successful run. And then like in 2018, he's been a major presence at Reykjavik Pride. There are multiple videos of him doing drag numbers as Bjork. I can send you that if you're interested. It's him doing it's oh so quiet.
Okay.
And just like nails it. And just like he continues to promote and collaborate with up and coming artists in that scene for Reykjavik. One of my favorite bands from Iceland the last couple of years, Inspector Spacetime, did essentially just sort of, here's what's in our record hall for one of the Icelandic music like Instagram, just sort of promotional accounts. And they shouted out Pall Oskar as one of their picks. And then like the next video in that same series is him because they shouted him out. So just again, he's continuing to do the work.
Yeah. It's kind of setting the trend of like send your biggest pop star to the contest as well.
Yeah, because like again, in 1997, Iceland's like, this is the person who's doing very well in our country and wants to represent us. He's continued to have an active performing career, and like he has like a very incredible just sort of breadth as a singer, because like again, he will do standards, he'll do this very techno inflected pop. He just won 2 Icelandic Music Awards earlier this month for a collaborative album he released last year for both Pop Song of the Year and Text of the Year. So just like right now in Icelandic music, Leifi is getting a lot of notice. It's basically like all the awards are basically her, and then also Pall Oskar is here.
Nice.
In terms of Eurovision stuff, he wrote the English lyrics for Iceland's 2008 entry, This Is My Life. And then he has also been a leading voice on when Iceland should boycott Eurovision. Going back to 2012, he was suggesting they boycott because of human rights violations in Azerbaijan.
Right.
Just like the quote at the time, Iceland should withdraw from the Eurovision Song Contest in Baku, Azerbaijan. Human rights first, Eurovision second. It's fun to be glamorous, but it's a disgusting thought to be glamorous in a crystal palace built on as ugly a foundation or with as revolting a backstory as this. In 2019, he was one of the leading voices for We Should Boycott the Contest. Just like, they have stolen the joy. Today we must take a stand with humanity. We must be on the team that says stop. Let's show the world that we are not hypocrites. He had hosted an annual Eurovision party at NASA, which is one of Iceland's major music venues, from 2003 to 2018. Since 2019, he has not done anything Eurovision related, and has said he will not do so until Israel is expelled from the contest. He was one of the people protesting outside Ruv on December 10th when they were making their decision, and got a cosign from Bjork on Facebook for that, of just like, we should be listening to Pall Oskar. Looking at these moments, it kind of helps me understand like where Iceland's position came from this year. Is again, like they have been, like, it took them a while to get TV. It took them a while to join Eurovision. They take it very seriously. Part of me is just like, there is like an interesting alternate universe in both 1999 and 2009 where they placed second. Right. Where it's just like, I would like to see what would have happened if they had won in 1999, because like All Out of Love is a great song. Johanna's Is It True is like a very solid Eurovision ballad. Like what happened, like obviously Fairy Tale was going to win. That song just had momentum and just like an incredible score. But like what happens in the universe where that doesn't exist?
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think it was during the last ESC 250 countdown when Is It True was playing. It was just like, yeah, this really should be competing in the top spot like every year, like alongside Euphoria and like the other like often top 10 songs. It's like, why this missed its glory? And it's just like, if it was just like 1 year earlier or 1 year later, how things would be different. But yeah.
Iceland, because Iceland is so remote from the rest of Europe, it's like it's evolved differently. Because like the Icelandic language is just old Norwegian that grew up differently because it was so far away from the homeland.
Okay,
it's just like there is like Icelanders can basically read like Old Norse because it's that similar. Their TV has also had a different development scale, largely to preserve culture. It's a delightful nation. I think there's more to dive into there, but just like, again, this is how they push the contest forward, even though they've never won. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the EuroWhat. Thanks for listening. The EuroWhat podcast is hosted by Ben Smith, that's me, and Mike McComb.
That's me. You can find our full archive of episodes on our website at EuroWhat.com. For a free newsletter and more info about the EuroWhat AV Club bonus podcast, check us out at patreon.com/EuroWhat.
Next time on the EuroWhat, we reach the middle of the pack in our boycotting country series and we'll be talking about Slovenia.